All right, so we'll call the meeting to order at 6:36. Just as a reminder, we have some speaker issues here in the room, so when folks on Zoom talk, I'll need to unmute my speaker, and then we'll be quiet in the room to avoid an echo. So Sue and Merle, when you do speak, just give me 1 second to unmute and then I'll give you the high sign. First order of business is to review and make any changes to the agenda. Are there any additions or deletions to be made to the agenda?
I have none.
No. I think,
I have a small request from the MCA, but it's not, I don't think it's item related to them. But if you put it in,
Sure.
request for village green use by the MCA.
Okay. MCA request added under new business. We'll make that an E. Anything else?
yes, I believe from the last meeting, we were supposed to discuss changing the time of visitors.
We're gonna keep them at 7.
Okay.
Yep. All right, hearing no other changes to the agenda, we'll go on to the review and approval of the minutes of the April 17th meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? And this would be a time to also note Merle's comment about not delinquent tax collector, but collector of delinquent taxes.
So I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of 4/17 with amending collector of delinquent taxes. Correct that.
Great, so we have a motion from Mark to approve the minutes as amended to correct the title of that position. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second from Leanne. Is there any further discussion?
I need to look, I want to look at those minutes because I felt that he had mentioned that in the meeting and I had amended it going forward in the minutes. And
Okay.
so I would like to know exactly where it
Okay,
is.
we can take a beat,
But
and we can
he's,
look it up.
he's looking. Sorry.
That's okay. Give us 1 sec, we're just checking something in the minutes.
I don't have them right here. We can carry on.
Okay, so we'll double check that. So if there's no other discussion, hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes as amended, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, motion carries. With that, we'll move to Public Works. First up is just any updates you've got, Mark?
No, we had the thing with Billy,
Yep.
WCAX, that came out pretty good.
Yeah, super seniors. Yeah, that's
Super
great.
senior. Yes, yeah. No, we're just trying to get the roads back in shape now. With the rain, it's, kind of delaying it some, but we're just getting everything back together. Then they're gonna start sweeping right off too, getting stuff swept.
Great.
So the broom's on the tractor and get that done. So that's on the agenda.
Awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Great.
So that's what the projects are.
Good. If that's it for updates, then the next up is a driveway permit, and this is for,
So
is it
it's spelled B-A-Z-E-S.
Bazes? Okay, so it is Bazes.
Alexander Bazes.
Okay, that must be Terry's son.
How do they pronounce it?
Bazes?
Bazes, yeah.
Yeah.
I would think
yep.
so.
Yeah. So this is on Sheldon Farm Road, on the left going up. So I went and met with them, and Scott and I met with them, and they need a 30-foot culvert and then ditch both sides of a road of her, as far as they need to go, as far as they need to go.
Mhm.
I think they probably have to go almost down the road, the main road, and then up, almost to the next road up from their driveway. So that's what we told them. So I approved that. So that's what it is.
Great.
Yeah.
Are they,
They're going to be doing it right off. I think they've already started on it. Got it in, but they didn't put it in right, so that's why they.
okay.
yeah.
So are they subdividing it and building a new house, or just putting in a new driveway?
No, I think it's just a new driveway.
Just a new driveway?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Anybody want to see? So, okay.
Just my special.
So you've already approved it, so, it's been reviewed,
I'll just need a motion.
by Mark, so, I would make a motion that the board approve the application for driveway permit from Alexander Bazes, subject to the Sheldon Farm Road. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a second from Suzanne. Thanks, Suzanne. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great. Motion
I
carries.
think there's a place for you to sign.
Yeah, so approved.
Yeah. I think just the chairman.
Great. Oops, sorry.
Okay.
Awesome. So that takes us through Public Works. We're a little bit ahead of schedule, but that's okay. So now what we're gonna do is we'll go to visitors. We'll go to the screen first. So Merle, if you have anything for visitors, you're up.
Do you have a box for each one of you, or a box for the selectmen down at the clerk's office to put documents in? I have this flag, I told you long before, I got all this flag information and I just don't get down to meeting. But occasionally I could drop it off if you have some type of box at the town clerk's office for selectmen.
Yes, so in the town office, there's boxes up kind of next to the copy machine. So if you leave something for any one of us and just tell Liz or Genevieve or Aaron to put it in a specific box, they can put it in the box and then we'll grab it. There's also a general select board box to the left of the printer, which is kind of a catch-all for everything. So if they put it in one of those, we'll definitely get it.
Yeah, okay, I'll drop it. I do go by there occasionally today in the daytime. I could drop it off. It's just information on the flag that I mentioned before. And I did notice in your minutes, you mentioned about the streetscape. I guess after all the really problems that was brought up last time, there was a mention in the minutes about maybe it says should pause and look at moving forward with the sidewalks and so forth. It seems like that would be the best interest of the town. I would just say it seemed like the way to go.
Great, thanks Merle. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a few minutes, but that's kind of the direction we're looking now, so appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks Merle. Sue.
Yes, I wanted to know whether we had any information on the amount collected so far for the local option tax, because it's now been 7 full months.
Yes, we do. And so what we learned about the local option tax is that the state does not report it quarterly. And some people also don't report it quarterly themselves. Some people report it annually. So I had thought that it was like every quarter per the calendar, we get a report and everybody would file the same way. That's not quite what's happening, which just means that we can't compare quarter to quarter, apples to apples, essentially. But what we did find out was that we got two payments. These came in for the first recording period, which was essentially the first quarter, although not quite because of the way they do their math. The two payments were for $551.64, and the second was for $19,660.88. So rough numbers, you're looking at the first, and I'll use quarter in air quotes, but the first quarter's payments came in at around $20,000. If folks remember, the back of the envelope, well, it wasn't quite back of the envelope, but the math we did going into it estimated about $35,000 annually being raised for that.
That's what I thought.
So $20,000 for the first payment is really great, because that sets us up to even potentially have more money to ratchet down
Of course, that's your busiest time through ski season.
Exactly,
Yeah.
so this next one, we're
So
gonna
might
catch the
add-
tail end of ski season, through
Yeah.
stick season, so we'll have to see how it averages out, but 20
Yeah.
grand for the first period is nothing to take a stick at.
That's
That-
amazing.
I think that's fantastic.
It is, yeah. Where's that money going?
I got a
How's it
question
gonna
for
be
Sue.
used?
It's going for the wastewater project, the payment of the wastewater project.
Yeah, if folks remember, the way the charter was passed, the language specifically says that the funds are to be used towards reducing the debt on the wastewater system, and to pay the debt service on the system, and that when that debt is paid off, the local option tax will automatically sunset.
Unless you decide at some point to do it again.
We could, except that we'd have to then
Earmark it.
pass a new charter which had different language. So we could extend it if the town wanted to, but for these purposes, that will end when that final note is paid off.
Gotcha. Okay, my second thing was, Mark, do you think we could have the flags and the banners up the week of May 15th?
We might need some more flags too. If you had a chance to stop in and look through the flags, and I think we need to replace a few.
Okay, I was gonna ask you that if you wanted me to stop in.
Yeah,
Okay, and, but the week of May 15th, and then we could leave them up until after Labor Day.
okay. So
So
we-
I will come down one day this week and I'll check and see how many new flags we
Mhm.
need, and then I'll give the order to Liz. So
Okay,
she can order them.
and we can get them.
Yeah, and if not the 15th, the 22nd, but it no later than the week of the 22nd, because we
No.
need them up for Memorial Day.
Yeah,
Okay. So I will stop this week and check out the flags. The banners should be fine.
yeah.
Okay, very good. That's all I had.
All right, thanks, Sue. Peter, we'll go to the room.
Nothing specific.
Nothing? Okay,
Just the update is, I'm here for that.
great. Well, if anything comes to mind, you can start waving your arms frantically or yelling.
Take my turn.
Yeah. All right. So with that, let us move on to old business. So municipal wastewater project update. So this is very similar to 2 weeks ago's update. The latest round of the engineering work for the village went out to the folks to review at different agencies and entities. We did receive DEC's comments back on Friday. So those are being reviewed by the engineers now. Hopefully have a response to them sometime by the middle of the week, end of the week. And then depending on where all that lands, we'll continue with the revisions and honing in on the final engineering plans for that. The attorneys, as I mentioned last time, are working up the different easements. The town office staff has done a great job pulling together all of the different deed information for the subject properties in the village. We're gonna do that one first. Second's gonna be phase 2. So the attorneys are drafting the easement language for the village now. The idea being that we're gonna come up with some form of a template that we can use that then can be tailored to each individual property. As folks remember, the easements are gonna be needed to allow for access during construction and then access to the infrastructure essentially in perpetuity for operations and maintenance. So the attorneys are working on that. They're also doing some background homework related to the ordinance that was going to govern the system. Like we said last time, the idea now is that we're going to amend the existing water system ordinance to create a wastewater and water system ordinance. What the attorneys are doing now is they're kind of cross-checking against other systems in the state, just to kind of see how the framework has been set up elsewhere. If we don't need to reinvent the wheel, let's not do that.
Right.
So they're coming back hopefully within the next week or two with some ideas there and the first stab at the easements. So that's the update on the wastewater project. Talked about the local option tax, where that put us there. Any questions on that one?
Any developments on the cemetery?
No, it's work in the center has kind of paused a little bit as far as engineering goes while we try to get the village done. Because again, the timeline that we're looking at now would be to break ground in the village next spring
Yeah.
and then break ground in the center the following spring. And so in order to get things to the point where we can get out to bid for the village project, we really got to put the hammer down on that. Because we got to get that out for bids, to get the bids in with enough time to get things locked in, to have a contractor ready to operate in the
Okay.
spring.
Of course, they're almost like two separate systems anyways.
Yeah.
I mean, the village has its own, it's gonna be, yeah,
Yeah,
so.
yeah, Peter.
Is there any place other than following the minutes of your meetings where updates are available?
Not
Documents or
not
anything?
specifically. I mean, if anybody ever has any questions about specifics, like,
Yeah.
I'm happy to chat and we can go over stuff. I am looking to, once we get a little bit further with some of the easement work and things with the lawyers, to kind of pull together another, specifically targeting the user base meeting like we had in the Grange, to address some of the questions that came up then, and then to also talk about the easements, and then the ordinance as well. The next formal action of this board is going to be the ordinance discussion, just to flag that.
It's difficult, or could be difficult to ask questions without knowing the most updated status.
Yeah,
But to my knowledge, everything's moving forward
yeah,
according to your original idea, however tweaked.
yeah, yep. So now that we also have that last CREP or Community Revitalization and Recovery Program award baked into the funding stack, then what we can probably do is, let's do it at the next meeting, because I don't have it prepared here, but we can walk back through that. It's been a while since
Yeah.
we've done that. We went through the spreadsheet. So let me make a note, and then next meeting we can walk through that again. The numbers are great. We've got things right kind of where we were aiming to get them as far as what the user fees would work out to be and the affordability. Folks remember with that last award of $1 million, that gets the project to budget 95% covered by state and federal sources, with 5% from local sources being the local option tax, and then the O&M covered by user fees. But yeah, so let me bake that up, and that way, that's
The last
something that we can
talked
have.
It was a while ago, and it was, the
Yeah.
funding stack seemed to add up
Yeah,
to the numbers that you were using 3 years ago.
yeah,
And I think you and I had left off that, where is the costing at?
yeah, and the budget, so the cost increased, the project costs have increased, and then we've matched that by bringing other funds into the project itself. So we've been able to match the inflationary upward pressures on pricing with other funds
That's my
coming in.
question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, so let me, I will get the most updated spreadsheet together, and then we can review that at the next meeting.
Okay.
That way you can see the numbers and the sources. Sometimes visually it's easier.
Is that something you post? Or you
Yeah, what
consider
we'll do is
posting?
what I'll do is we'll screen share it via this, so that it can be presented, and then it'll be recorded as the screen share in the meeting. And then we can also make hard copies available if anybody wants a hard copy.
It's just a lot of talk, and it's based mainly on lack of information.
Yeah, yeah.
So, to the degree that there's clarity.
Yeah, we can certainly do a budget dive. And then perhaps also, if the engineers get the comments back on the plans covered with the state, we can also, this would be a little bit more difficult to do remotely, but we can also roll out plans or look at them together. Maybe I can get them digitally to project, but to give folks an idea of what the system looks like on the ground.
Yeah, that'd be
Again,
good.
like we talked about last time, a lot of people think about wastewater systems as your house connects to the street where the sewer runs down the street, you got manholes, everything runs to one point, treatment system. So this one's designed very differently just because of the nature of the system, the size of the system, and the cost of it. And so the way that the infrastructure lays is very different. So we can certainly go and review those to give folks an idea of what that's going to be looking like too. So yeah, so we'll make a note to go over that.
At one
next
point, there were 2 systems.
Yep.
And you boiled it down to 1.
Well, so there's 2
That's where I left
systems.
off.
There's still 2 systems, one for the center and one for the village. So they're not contiguous.
Okay,
So there's two separate systems, and then depending on which funding agency we're talking to, they consider them one project or two projects. This is where it gets a little bit kind of
I
in the
remember that
weeds.
conversation.
But like for the congressionally directed spending award, the USDA rural development, all those folks look at it as one project. The state has actually separated out the project into two different projects. And the reason for doing that was that it allowed them to then give us two different ARPA awards and two different pollution control grants. So it was the ability to get more money into the project by splitting it. So works out great for the funding, makes the bookkeeping a little bit more complicated.
I think at one point you had to redefine the village perimeter.
So we
Was that part of that conversation? Or?
we've got the user base, the user area defined, which is the footprint of the water system. One of the questions that we were talking about was that we might have to redefine my terminology might be off here, but we have like our village designations, or our designated village centers, which are our growth centers. Because the village centers, as currently established, do not cover the entire water system and wastewater system area, there was a chance that they would have required us to create a designation of essentially a neighborhood development area, which is like a bubble around that. So we'd have to then create and go through a process at the state with the planning commission to then map and then get it approved by the state. I got some people in the legislature to put some pressure on the state to make that not happen, because we all figured it was not necessary. And so luckily the right people looked at it the right way and said, we don't have to do that.
Good.
So we don't have to redo any of our designations like that, yeah.
What was Montgomery Village West? How was that? Why was that created?
Montgomery Village.
There's on a map I saw, Montgomery Center, Montgomery Village, and then kind of off toward the Hill West, West Hill area was a Montgomery Village West.
It could have had to do with some of the early things they were looking at with like different siting for certain features. I know in some cases we were talking about like center north, center south, as far as where they were looking at like disposal field areas.
Okay.
And it was just kind of a tag to talk about, wait, which field are you talking about?
So it was location.
So it might have been having to do with that, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I was curious, it just popped up.
Yeah, yeah.
There has to be a reason for it.
Yeah, I think those were designations just in terms of as the engineering was being developed, kind of just so we knew where we were talking about.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
But yeah, so we'll make a note next meeting to go over the budget numbers and just to get everybody updated with some material in front of them. I'll pause here before we go to the streetscape updates, just to let Larry come on and tell us about his feelings about the Bruins game last night.
Did you want more hand gestures like you had got last meeting, or? I am very disappointed, obviously. Real quick question, the Reagan Road Power Pump House project, where does that lay?
Yeah, so
I was gonna bring that up.
we
Yeah.
just need the easement paperwork back from the landowners, and I hand delivered that to them and chatted with them back right before Christmas, and I haven't heard a peep since. So
Yeah.
the ball is in their court. I just need to circle back and see if they still have the paperwork, if they have questions, what might be holding it up. But that was the last action there.
Did you
Yeah.
put a Christmas ribbon on it? May have made a difference.
I did not. Maybe I should have.
All right, the delinquent taxpayer wage, the 4% versus 8%, have you researched that?
We have not.
I'll just give you a quick overview of what I know or what I found. In 1993, it was on a warning for the town meeting as to pay Merle Van Giesen a salary. And all delinquent taxpayer interest rates and penalties went directly to the town. It did not end up leaving that way. That by the end of the meeting, they agreed to the 4%. Okay, somewhere, if I could find the minutes that I can't find on our website, obviously, from that town meeting, and I believe would be found on 1993 you would find the actual minutes of that meeting.
1993.
30 years ago.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, we can look back at the minutes from the meeting.
And have you seen any blown down trees this week?
There was some on Reagan Road this morning.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
blown down trees.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Larry. Because I see blowing down trees every day where I am.
Did you lose power this morning? Larry?
Yeah, we lost it. I lost it before the end of the Bruins game. I think it was the beginning of the third period.
Oh, is that right? Oh,
We
no.
didn't really resume power until 5:30 this morning.
Oh, jeez.
That was the universe's way of saying, Larry, don't watch this.
Yeah. Have a good night, everybody.
You too.
Thanks, Larry.
Did he say specifically the date of that meeting?
It would have been town meeting.
Town meeting.
so-
Town meeting.
Town
Yeah,
meeting.
yeah.
Yeah.
So March
Okay,
1st, 3rd, 5th, whatever.
okay.
So yeah, so we can do a little bit of digging. So moving back with the agenda, so we're on to the streetscape project update. So took the feedback from the board back to the engineering team, regional planning, and V-Trans with what we discussed. And I have a meeting Wednesday afternoon to basically put all of our heads back together, engineering team, regional planning, V-Trans, kind of around what do the next steps look like with that in terms of the scaled back scope that we talked about.
Is that a Zoom meeting or?
Yeah,
Oh, it is.
yeah, it's a Zoom meeting with the engineers. If you want to be on it, I can send you the invite
Yeah,
to it.
send me the link.
Yeah.
thanks.
Again, a lot of these we haven't done full board meetings just because it would mean warning the full meeting with the prerequisite
Bob, it's just
dates,
the two of us.
having the quorum.
Yeah.
So if anybody does want to join a meeting like that, and if we do need to warn it as a full meeting, we certainly can. It's just from the ease of
Mm.
scheduling, attendance, record keeping, all that kind of stuff we haven't. Because again, just remember, with any kind of regular meeting, it's 48 hours in advance. Special meetings are 24 hours in advance. So we do want to make sure that if we do have a quorum, that we warn it appropriately.
Mhm.
But yeah, I can certainly email you the link. So it's 2:30 on Wednesday.
Oh,
Yeah.
of course, I might, well, yeah, I'll have a few minutes to be there.
Yeah. Well,
I have to grab with the bus. but-
I'll email it to you, and
Okay,
I'll send you a text as well as a reminder.
okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see what they come back with as far as kind of what we can do with what we're working with, and again, just flagging that the questions that we need answered there are specifically around, we've got money from the TAP grant, we've got money from NBRC, Northern Board of Regional Commission, and we just want to make sure that as project scopes change, that the funding mechanisms still work with what we're looking at. So that's kind of the next big question in terms of scope adjustments and capacity. So that's it for the streetscape update. 98 Main Street. So bringing this back around because last time we talked about it, I think we discussed the post office had given us the affirmative that they want to move back to that location. They said that they wanted a little bit more space, but not a lot. They want like an extra 100
Yeah.
square feet or something.
Yeah.
Which leaves the other side of the building, which is the old town office,
No.
vacant.
Now, the other side's gonna be even smaller.
It'll be a little bit smaller. I think basically what it means is taking that old conference room in the back and maybe cutting it in half.
Yeah, but are we gonna
Yeah.
have to pay for the remodeling?
Well, that's one, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
So there's a question about what they might bring to the table to help with this.
Yeah.
As far as the other side of the building goes, because if folks remember when I told the Postal Realty Trust who was interested in buying the building, I told them that they didn't want the whole building. The Realty Trust said, well, we would still buy it, but we wouldn't rent the other side to anybody because they don't want other tenants. I mean, that would still leave kind of a hole on Main Street and half of that building, which could be usable space. So the Montgomery, I believe they call themselves the Montgomery Community Project. It's a co-work space that Daniel Kahn has been leading.
Oh, yeah.
They
Yeah.
received a congressionally directed spending request in the amount of, yeah, like under 100,000, but they've got federal money to support standing up that project.
Huh.
And they're looking for a space. And I met with Dan last week and chatted about, you know, what they're looking at and the potential for this space, you know, working for them. And it sounds like something that could be a great fit. Because it would mean that they would have a space on Main Street with easy access to post office, everything else. And then we could potentially have a nonprofit tenant with a community-based kind of enterprise going on there.
Would they just use that small front area, or would they use the basement?
They would probably have to redesign the front office, middle office, vault, and back to suit whatever they needed. The idea being it's going to be a co-work space, so I imagine they'd put some sort of open concept workstations in the front, maybe a conference room in the back. I really don't know. But the next step that I was going to do is to get a contractor in there just to give us an estimate of what it would cost to basically finish the gut upstairs. So we can take the drywall down, finally get behind the walls in there, and then we'd pick up with ServPro where we left off. Folks remember, going all the way back in time, they did give us a proposal for remediation in the rest of the building that we never moved on because the post office wouldn't go anywhere. So what I'm going to try to do is get an estimate for completing the gut and then circling back to ServPro on what the remainder of that work would look like to get the upstairs back in shape.
If you were gonna gut it anyways, then that's when they would be remodeling, same time.
Yep.
I mean, you know, you wouldn't just fix it back the way it was.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So we need to figure out how much to gut to then get clean, and then when it comes to the remodeling, we'd have to get estimates there, but that's when we'd also be looking at what other parties might be able to bring
Money
resources to the table to assist with that. Because we definitely don't have you know, a couple 100,000 lying around to remodel the building.
No, we're gonna put it in this building.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what we're doing,
Yeah,
not that one. We put a lot in that one already.
yeah. So that's the only new update on that, is that, you know, we potentially have a tenant interested in the space that would be not a strictly commercial tenant. It would be a nonprofit community development entity. Any questions on any of that stuff?
What brought the post office back?
Me nagging.
It's years.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. I thought maybe it was the realization that the place they're at now is maybe not working.
No, it's all the people here on the ground.
Pretty good.
All the people on the ground here want to do it. It's the people that are in South Carolina, Texas, and Washington.
Oh, the local postal people.
Yeah, all the local people
Yeah.
are like, it makes sense, let's do it. But it's the facilities people that are based in like Washington and Texas and North Carolina that needed to kind of be brought in and understanding what's happening and
It's a long time perking.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we
Good
don't have
job,
anything.
Charlie.
What's that?
Good job.
Yeah, well, trust me.
Work them over for 3 years or whatever it was.
Yeah. So anyway, that's hopefully something we can start moving. So that takes us through old business.
I have a question, I think it's still old business, the
Yeah.
Joy property. I see there was like a bid to go out for somebody to brush hog and do some work there. Where's that money coming from to do that?
So that's all through the Conservation Commission, through
Oh,
their
okay.
project. Yeah.
Okay,
Yep. They've
Okay.
got at least one grant.
because I know they're supposed to be planting some trees down there.
Yeah. They've got the Caring Canopies grant through A&R.
Oh,
They might
okay.
have one other. I read the RFP and reviewed it with Carissa and basically said, you know, it's in line with what the board agreed to and
Yeah.
the RFP you can put out. when they do go to contract, she'll come back to us.
Oh,
But I told her
okay.
basically, you don't need our authority to put an RFP out. Yep. Sue, go ahead.
Yeah, Charlie, go back to the 98 Main Street. There, you're going to be putting in more bathrooms, correct? In the renovations?
Yeah, so with the renovations, we would be either putting in more bathrooms or we would be making the bathroom that is there handicap accessible.
Oh, yeah, like taking out the sink and just making the bathroom. Right
Well-
now, it's tiny, tiny.
Yeah, 'cause you can hardly turn around here, right?
Yeah, right now you've got two shoe boxes side by side, and so we'd have to talk to the contractor about, do we knock the middle wall out and make it one ADA accessible bathroom, or do we put another one in the back that's just a post office bathroom that only the post office can access? So there's questions there.
That's, yep, that's what I just, so that is, more bathrooms are being planned.
Yeah, but not to any level of detail yet that we can say what they're gonna look like.
Oh, right,
or-
right, absolutely. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Sue.
I think that Larry had a question.
He was flailing around.
Larry, did you have a question too?
No, but Merle's been trying to get in for quite some time.
I apologize. The way the sound works, we can't really hear you unless we're unmuted, but Merle, go ahead.
Yeah, I just going back to streetscape, I just wondered, could improvement to the parking at the rec center be included in that project and that money or not?
So the plan right now is to extend the sidewalk down to the rec center. And the way the plans are now, we end up moving the sidewalk farther on the north side of the road and then establishing more on-street parking along there. Basically formalizing that whole area to get them out of the traveled way. The only thing is that on-street parking was kind of a hard no from V-Trans unless we take over that as a state highway. I'm hoping that if we scale the project back like we talked about and we said, hey V-Trans, pretty please, can we just do on-street parking in this one little section? They might come around to it. We can also look at Bakersfield and kind of make noise about how they let Bakersfield do it, but
Yeah.
The parks are now, you'd think they want to improve it.
yeah, you would.
Okay.
Thanks, Merle. Yeah, if anybody notices that, because with the
I can hear the
speaker,
feedback. Yeah.
the speaker muted, we can't hear them, but if anybody notices waving, you should sing out.
Larry did a good job.
You sure did.
All right, so that brings us to, so when they come back with a contract for that, that's when I think Carissa will circle back to us.
Oh, okay.
What I
Okay.
told her was they don't need our approval to put an RFP out.
No, I was
Yeah.
just wondering where the funding is.
And
Yep.
where is that funding coming from?
So it's coming through, through grants they've secured. I think it's called the Caring Canopy
Yes.
grant, but I'm not 100% sure if that's the one directly supporting that work. Okay, well that brings us to new business. Emily, do you want to take the lead on the website contract?
Sure. So as we've moved from our old website to the new website, which I think is more usable, and I'm receiving a few complaints about it, which is nice. Zach Scheffler, who has been our website admin for the past forever, is looking to move into more of a webmaster role, sort of providing more of the big logistical support when something is really broken or when we need a new tab added to the page, like the larger things, whether we need some redesign or something like that. He is looking to move out of the role of posting the minutes and the agendas and going through and fixing when there's a new appointment made or something like that. And so shifting that work out of his sort of domain, and hopefully
Who's gonna do
to
that?
Liz,
Oh,
which
okay.
is another part of this conversation. What Zach is looking for is he has been previously paid a set rate on a monthly basis. He's looking to move to an hourly rate based on what he is doing. Some months that could be 0 work, other months hopefully not. Something breaks and it could be more. But he has provided a very straightforward contract here, shifting his services, that I would suggest that we adopt this contract, but I'd be happy for people to take a peek at that.
Is there an hourly rate in the contract?
I know that
$25 an hour.
$25 an hour.
Yeah, that's cheap.
It's
Hours says we paid at $25 an hour, rounded down to the nearest quarter hour.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's-
rounded down, right. I mean, Zach has provided services for the
Yeah.
town, I mean,
Yeah.
essentially like free. And redid
Yeah.
the whole website, without any additional funding beyond what we're paying on a monthly basis.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think he almost sees this as like community service, which is pretty tremendous because he's very talented
Yeah.
Yes.
and very responsive, so.
So under this framework, when we need something posted to the website, we'd be emailing it to Liz.
So that's
Oh,
the
okay.
second piece of this, in moving Zach into more of a webmaster role where he's taking on just the bigger issues, hopefully not, with the website, the sort of daily maintenance of the website, which isn't really daily, but it is the posting of minutes and agendas, and when things change, updating, would shift to be on Liz's plate as far as responsibilities. What I asked her to do over the course of, since our rollout with the website, so like 4 months, 5 months now, is take a crack at doing those things. She's sat with Zach quite a bit for training, and we've had quite a few meetings to check in and see how those things are going. I've also asked her to track how long it's taking her on a weekly basis to do those things. And what she's finding is that some weeks there's 0 investment of time because there's nothing that changes and nothing that needs to be posted. Other weeks it's a couple of hours. On average, it hasn't been more than 2 to 3 hours over the course of any month. As far as taking on additional responsibilities, I think that it's fair to compensate people when we ask them to add a whole new role or responsibility to their job, especially when it's taking extra time. And so a clean way in which to do that, because we don't necessarily have funding within that like office line for website administration, would be to give Liz like a separate login for our like time clock system, and when she's working on website stuff, she would log in as the website administrator in order to track those hours sort of separate from her town clerk hours. She and I discussed at length sort of the cleanest way to do this so that it's not, she wouldn't be doubly logged in. She's not looking to like double dip and be like, okay, I'm clocked in as town clerk and I'm clocking in as doing website administration, because that's not how this goes. She would designate specific time during the week that she would stay outside of her regular town clerk hours in order to complete work when needed.
Yeah.
Obviously, she wouldn't be staying if there wasn't work to be doing.
But you said it's only like been like 2 to 3 hours a month?
No. Over the course of a month, maybe 2 or 3, like on average, like 2 or 3 hours a week. But
Oh, okay.
some weeks,
Okay.
Yeah.
none.
Because the one question I've got is sometimes, so a lot of times it's, I send something in to get posted, or Lois sends in her news from Montgomery or somebody else, and so there's often like multiple things posted over the course of a week.
Yep.
And sometimes that might really be something where it's like, in the time it takes Liz to clock out and
So
clock back in.
we talked
Yeah.
about that,
Yeah.
and that's not her plan at
So
all.
she
Her
would-
plan would be to designate time, and she was thinking, though this could change, but on Friday afternoons when she's done,
Yeah.
that would be her specified website admin time, because she's not planning to clock in and clock out, because that just makes for an inefficient system. And the idea with moving the daily admin tasks of the website in-house is for efficiency.
Yeah.
She would, and we talked about, and there would obviously be things to work out, but does she need a separate email address so all things website sort of go to one email address and it's therefore captured, and then when she's working on that, she's logging into that, and it could get sort of an auto reply like, I work on website administration tasks on Fridays, like that's when this request will be posted or something of that nature. Because yes, it would be completely inefficient to be logging in and logging out all the time, and that's not,
Yeah.
she did say if something pops up and it's emergent, she would obviously hop right on and do it without like logging in and logging out.
Because the main thing's going to be if she's only updating the website once a week, then barring emergency stuff, we would just need to get everybody, and I'm thinking specifically around public meeting
Yep.
laws and stuff, we would need to have everybody knowing that if you have a meeting coming up, date X, you need to get your agenda to Liz by
Thursday, end of business.
Thursday end of. So my only question would be like, if I don't have the meeting calendar in front of me, because that works well for us, because our meetings are Monday, and I usually
Yeah.
send Zach our. But like, if folks have a meeting on Thursdays, they potentially need to get her their agenda
The
the
previous week.
previous Thursday, which does make it difficult to like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's a week before the meeting, a lot can change in a week.
Yeah.
As
And
far as an
so
agenda.
Yeah, so if the agenda needs to get
Mhm.
revisited or reposed, yeah, I'm just like, and we can look at our meeting schedules to think about like, how does Friday work for people? But that's my only concern is that like, we need to make sure we don't run afoul of the meeting laws, and we need to make sure it's efficient for agendas to get posted in a way that they can reflect.
Would it be reasonable to ask her to do it twice a week, or then are we just stretching hours?
It could
Yeah.
be. We could definitely come back to her and say the concern being once a week that we might have issues with agendas not being complete in
Yeah.
that time. So would you be willing to spend, but it again is only if there are things for her to
Right.
do.
Mhm.
Otherwise, she won't be spending
Right.
time doing it.
Yeah,
Did you guys talk at all about another framework would be just giving her a stipend, and she does it whenever, no clocking in, clocking out, like,
That seems really messy.
okay.
And the reason that seems messy to me is then I feel like people would question, well, she's logged in on the time clock as town clerk, and also getting like, so are there really, I feel like people would wonder, are there really additional hours being spent doing this, or are we like is it double payment?
I got you. So is she doing the
That-
website work during town clerk hours, and therefore?
Well, and
No, it's a totally fair point. Yeah.
and I don't think that she would be.
Yeah.
But what we talked about is how does she then capture that? Like, is she keeping a notebook and she's like, well, I worked on the website for 3 minutes. Like,
Yeah, well,
I gotta make up 3 minutes at the end of the day, and that just seemed like.
No, totally. And the idea
Yeah.
would be that she wouldn't track it, and everyone would just be happy and content. But
But I know the world that we live in,
Yeah,
and I
no,
don't
100%.
necessarily think
Yeah.
that, as far as clean lines of finances,
Yeah.
that's the way
no, that makes total sense.
things function.
Well, yeah, I think the framework as long as Aaron is cool with that framework.
She's fine with creating
Then-
another login and that it would just be reported in the, like, what she needs to do is make sure that she can link that login to the budget line that is the website
Okay.
line.
Yeah, well, as long as
So
it's
that the
back
money
end,
is
it
getting
works.
pulled from there and not out of the general sort of town office payroll
Hmm.
funding.
How much did we put in for the website? Do we remember?
That's the next question is what, yeah, how much are we paying Liz and how does that get into the budget for the website? Do we know?
And then what did we budget for Zach?
Yeah, I don't recall. It's baked into the town office,
That-
budget line,
Yeah.
so.
I believe that
Yeah.
it has, if I'm correct, I believe that it has been $400 a month, just a flat
That's
rate.
what I thought.
Or a month, okay.
Yeah,
Alright,
yeah.
cool. So does Liz have a number in mind or is it just duplicating the clerks? Okay,
That's sort of what I was, we
Right.
didn't discuss a specific number.
okay. Why don't we do this? Let's go over those details with Liz and bring back our proposal subject to just, Liz's work at our next meeting. And then for now, what I would do is I would move that the board adopt the contract, or proposal from Zach Scheffler for, the municipal webmaster role.
Not to start that role till after we get Liz. Or,
I
I
mean,
mean,
I'd say we could start this whenever, because we're gonna be the ones instigating work with him. So,
But then
no, but he's gonna give up the
the
Posting
That
and all that
leaves the
stuff.
posting.
posting and all that stuff.
oh, I got
That's
you.
what I mean.
I got
We
you.
don't want him to
Okay,
No.
drop that before we get the string straightened out with Liz.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, then we can table it if you want as well until we get straightened out with Liz. So then the questions for
mean,
Liz are gonna be,
Yeah, I think we
how many
should.
times a week can she do it? And then
And come back to the
confirming
next
the
meeting.
hourly rate.
Come back next meeting with those questions
Okay.
answered and then we are shooting ourselves,
Yeah, well, that makes
Right.
sense.
And-
I was thinking more that we'd be duplicating the stipend and the hourly, but you're right. If we
I mean,
if we
tell
stop
him,
the first
just-
process,
then we're not gonna have anybody
yeah,
to post the minutes.
Yep. Okay, cool. Sound good?
Yeah,
All right, thanks for doing all the legwork on that, Emily.
Mhm.
and just let Zach know that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're good to go with the contract. We just need to figure out the start date.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so moving on the agenda, next up is the town plan municipal project manager services contract with Northwest Regional Planning. So our town plan needs to be updated, and the town planning commission has secured a grant to help fund that work. We applied for that, received the funding. This board's seen that paperwork in the past.
Yeah,
And so what we have now before us is a contract with regional planning to assist the planning commission with the development of the revised town plan. It's all boilerplate, essentially mirroring past contracts with them, lays out a specifications of work to be performed, and then the budget. So the budget being kind of where rubber hits the road. The total project cost is $18,284. We have $16,456 in grant funds, which means that at the end of the day, the town kicks in a match of $1,828.
Which
And
is-
so this contract would be for that 18,284 to perform the scope of work assisting the planning commission with the development of the new town plan.
Hmm.
Apologies for not printing this off earlier, but agreement spans from May 1st, 2023 until January 31st, 2025, otherwise
Okay.
noted. Everything else in here boilerplate from the last time we did this with them as well.
Okay.
Peter, anything to add on the town plan or?
This is everything that we discussed.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yep.
Yeah.
So then the motion would be to adopt the agreement for planning services by and between Northwest Regional Planning and the Town of Montgomery.
I'll make that motion.
Great, we have a motion from Mark, is there a second?
I'll second that.
We have a second from Suzanne. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, we'll vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye, or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, motion carries. I'll get this right back to them, and you guys can get rocking and rolling.
Thank you.
Next up is the 2023 Local Emergency Management Plan.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to request to table that for now because I just realized that there's content in there that needs to be amended anyway after Brent resigning as deputy.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some stuff that needs to be.
And so let's table the.
There's no date on it, is there?
There's no date that it needs to be handed in by, I don't believe.
Don't think so.
I don't think, yeah. No. So we can push
Okay.
this 2 weeks without an issue.
Yeah, I'll try to look it over and see if there's anything else we have to change.
Yeah, it'll be in the
Yeah.
box, so take a look.
Okay.
But the main thing I realized was that it's got Brent's name all over it. And I do need to circle back and talk to Greg, because he hasn't responded to any of the last few emails I've sent him about the position. I just want to make sure that he is still
Yeah,
interested in continuing on as Director of Emergency Management.
yeah.
So we'll follow up with that and then bring it back. So we'll table that for now.
Okay.
The next item here is mowing contract from Avery's. So folks remember Avery's been providing the town the mowing services for going on 2 years now.
Yeah.
What they have presented to us now is a 3-year service agreement. This year going through 3 years. They've outlined it here. Essentially, they are keeping their prices level within some cents within a couple bucks maybe on some of these with last year. What they've done is they've added an 8% fuel surcharge. And so if you look at this, you have last year's rates typed, this year's rates in pen, and then the rate with the fuel surcharge in parentheses. But if you look across the board, the rates have not increased much at all since last year.
Okay.
And they're willing to hold these numbers steady for the next 3 years.
Oh, okay.
With the caveat about fuel prices
Yeah.
rising. So if fuel prices go
Yeah.
up, they will raise this, but labor costs are going to stay the same.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
I've talked about it with Aaron. Aaron's comfortable with it and fully supports it, given the budget numbers.
Oh, mine went down.
Yeah, a couple things kind of fluctuated,
Yeah.
so that's why it's hard to say net things went up or in total things went up or down, but I think we're netting out more or less even. You can take a peek at these if you want, or pause.
Sounds good.
Good?
Yep.
Alright, and the motion would be to adopt the 3-year town lawn mowing services contract with Avery's.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion from Suzanne, is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second from Leanne, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of adoption, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great. Adopted. All right, Next up is the added item, it's the MCA's request about the town green.
Yeah, the MCA is hosting, or co-hosting an art auction, a live and online art auction for mostly Michael Domino's paintings in June, the weekend of the 16th. And it's predominantly gonna be in the Red Barn, in that old yard in his mother's house. But we're hoping to have some, if the weather is good, to have some easels out on the village green to be able to show extra work, because there's well over like 60 or 80 pieces.
Cool.
So we just wanted to bring that to make sure
What
that
was the date?
it's the 16th and 17th
Of May?
June.
Of June, okay.
Yeah.
And the only things that I know about are like Memorial Day or something there.
6/16 and 6/17.
Yeah.
The weekend of Father's Day, but that's no one. Sure. Anybody see any reason why we shouldn't?
No.
Okay,
Great, thanks.
great, then we're good to go.
Tell them that's
Yep. All right, liquor and tobacco licenses. So again, we don't have hard copy forms anymore. It's all done online, but I do have confirmation of what they're applying for, which was the issue last time. So first up, we have Mindful Bellies, DBA Omakase. This is for a third-class liquor license. Is there a motion to approve the third-class liquor license for Mindful Bellies?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion from Leanne. We have a second from Suzanne. If there's no discussion, hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, motion carries. Next up, we've got NSR Bridge LLC, which I'm pretty sure is the inn. This is a first-class and third-class license, as well as an outdoor consumption permit. Is there a motion to approve the NSR Bridge application?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion from Leanne. We have a second from Suzanne. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. So you've approved the third-class license for Mindful Bellies and the first and third-class plus outdoor consumption permit for NSR Bridge LLC. Next up, fleet permits. We've got Jordan Pratt, Wrights Excavating Inc., and Kilbourne Transport.
So I'll make a motion to approve the overweight truck permits for Jordan Pratt, Kilbourne Transport, and Wrights Excavating Incorporated.
Great. We've got a motion by Mark. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second from Suzanne. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
There's 3 more here, but they weren't on the agenda.
Yeah, they probably came in
Yeah.
late.
There's,
So
yeah, so I'll put them on.
we'll get them next time.
Yeah.
All right, and that brings us through our agenda.
When is our bid opening for the Lumley Bridge project?
I think
I can't
that,
remember the date. It's supposed to be 2 weeks from,
I think it's open now.
no, I mean that when we open the bids.
Oh, when do we open the bids?
Is it our next meeting, or do we have to have a special meeting?
No. We've timed it to be at
The next
a
meeting?
regular meeting. So I think it is the 15th.
Okay. Yeah.
It's gotta be, let me put a reminder in my phone.
Yeah, I just want to make sure. 'Cause I
Yeah.
thought it was like 2 weeks. It went out, or 2 or 3, yeah, they had.
Yeah, let me,
Yeah, I just
I'll
want,
double check that with
Dean,
Dean.
yeah,
I know we set it up to coincide with a regular meeting,
yeah,
so it's
Yeah.
gotta be the next one.
yeah,
The plans are in the clerk's office if anybody wants to check them out.
Oh, they are?
Or any contractors wanna come look at them.
oh, okay, yeah.
Anything else?
No,
All right, hearing nothing, then a motion to adjourn would be in order.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Great, we have a motion from Suzanne, is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second from Mark, is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, motion carries, and the meeting is adjourned at 7:40.